We are starting on Daf Lamed Amud Aleph, last Mishnah of the Perek. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, Ein Tfilat HaMusafin Ela Bechever Ir. Tfilat HaMusafin is only with a minyan. Because remember, Ein and Ela is a double negative, and that's a positive. B'chachamim omrim Bechever Ir v'shelo Bechever Ir. Chachamim say, you say Musaf, whether you have a minyan or whether you do not have a minyan. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmo. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol Makom. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Kol Makom sheyesh chever ir hayachid patur mitfilat hamusafin. Anytime you have a minyan, a yachid, a person praying in the kihila, is patur from musaf. So the Gemara starts off and says right away, Rabbi Yehuda hainu Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda, this is the Tanakama, meaning to say, they're saying the same thing, right? Because Rabbi Yehuda is saying essentially that if you can only pray musaf if you have a minyan, and the Tanakama is saying the same thing. That's the Gemara's understanding. So say, what's the difference? The Gemara says, Ika benaihu. This is the difference between them. Yachid shelo bechever ir. A yachid without a minyan, meaning you're at home in your pajamas, right? You want to pray musaf. Tanakama savar. The first opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds patur. If you're at home without a minyan, you're patur from praying musaf. Rabbi Yehuda savar chayav. Rabbi Yehuda explains the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that you are chayav to pray musaf even when you're at home. Amar Rav Huna bar Chinana Amar Rabbi Chia bar Rav halacha k'Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Huna, the son of Chinana, said in the name of Rabbi Chia bar Rav, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, sha'amar mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that he said in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, which is that you are chayav to, if you're by yourself at home, you must pray musaf, and if you're in shul, you don't have to pray musaf because the chazan says it for you. Amar le Rav Chia bar Avin. So Rav Chia bar Avin said, Shapir ka'amar. It's good what you're saying, right? So that Rabbi Chia bar Avin is saying to Rav Huna bar Chinana, he says, oh, what you're saying makes sense, that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Da Amar Shmuel, because Shmuel once said, remember this is Shmuel, first generation Amhurah, Mi yamai, all of my days, lo matzil natzlota de musafim biyachid. I never had to pray tfilat musaf by myself. Going to Lamed Amud Bet, Binahar Da'ah, Levar Mehahu Yoma. I never had to pray musaf by myself in the city of Nahar Da'ah. That's where Shmuel was the rabbi, right? He was the rabbi of the city of Nahar Da'ah in Bavel. I never had to pray musaf by myself. Levar Mehahu Yoma, except for that one day. Da'ata pulmusa de malka lamata, the army of the king came to the mata, to the city. V'atridu rabbanan, and the rabbis were bothered v'lo tzalu, and they did not pray. There was no minyan. V'tzali li biachid, and I prayed musaf that day by myself. V'haveh yachid, and I was a yachid shelo bechever ir. I was a yachid without a minyan. So we see from here, this is a proof like Rabbi Yehuda. Because Rabbi Yehuda said that if you're with a minyan, you don't pray because the chazan says it for you. And if you're not with a minyan, you're by yourself, you say it. So we see this is what Shmuel said. He said, I never prayed it until that one day because there was always a minyan, so they said it for me. The chazan said it for me. But that one day that we did not have a minyan, I prayed it by myself. That's exactly like Rabbi Yehuda. Beautiful proof. Gemara says, Yativ Rabbi Chanina kra kemei de Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Chanina Kra, the master of Pisukim, said to Rabbi Yanai, he was sitting in front of Rabbi Yanai, Kamei is in front of, V'yativ, and he sat, V'ka'amar, and said, Halachaz k'Rabbi Yehuda, sha'amar mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he repeats what we just said, right? He said, the halachaz like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yanai apparently did not like this, because he said, Amar le, Rabbi Yanai said to Rabbi Chanina, Poke, kra, karecha, livara. Poke, get out. Like take out your psukim. Take your psukim levara outside. Meaning, take your teachings with you. De'ein halacha Rabbi Yehuda shamar mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Okay? So that's a different opinion. Right? So we had beforehand a proof from the story of Shmuel that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. And now we had a story with Rabbi Yanai that it's not like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? So we have one proof for Rabbi Yehuda and one proof against Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara continues and says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ani ra'iti et Rabbi Yanai. I once saw Rabbi Yanai. Remember, Rabbi Yanai just said that halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. The tzali v'hadar tzali, that he prayed Amidah, and then he went back and he prayed Amidah a second time. Right? So it must be that he does not hold of the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Because remember, if you're with a minyan, then if you're with a minyan, we know that you do not pray musaf. So he went and he prayed once, then he went and prayed a second time. Obviously, if he prayed a second time, he was with a minyan, that second one we're assuming was musaf, then that's not like Rabbi Yehuda. Right? Because Rabbi Yehuda says, you keep quiet because the Chazan says it for you. Amar le Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbi Zera. So Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Zera, right after Rabbi Yirmiyah, I guess, heard this teaching from Rabbi Yochanan, he said to Rabbi Zera, V'dilma meikara lo kiven da'ate, u'levasof kiven da'ate. And maybe originally he did not have kavanah, and in the end he had kavanah. So I mean to say, maybe the fact that Rabbi Yanai prayed two tefillot, it's not because he prayed the second one musaf, and you maybe just didn't have kavanah the first one. And we know if you don't have kavanah in your tefillah, you need to pray again. That was back then when they had proper kavanah. That's not today. Amar le, so Rabbi Zera said back to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Chazi, look, man gavra rabba dikmisaid ale. Look at which great man. Right, Gavra is Gever, Rabba is great. Look at which great man that you're testifying about. I mean to say, how dare you accuse a tzaddik, a great person like Rabbi Yanai, of not having kavanah in his first tefillah, and then saying, well, he probably didn't have kavanah in his first tefillah, and that's why he prayed a second time. No. You don't say that about such a great rabbi. Obviously, if he's praying a second time, it's because his opinion is that you pray musaf, even if you're with the minyan. And we know that Rabbi Yehuda said that you do not pray musaf if you're with the minyan. So this is a proof against Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Asi afagav dahavu lehutlesa bekenishta b'Tiveria lohavu lematzla ele b'nei amudei. Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, even though there was to them 13 Batei Knesset in the city of Tiberia, they only prayed between the amudim, the pillars, where they would learn. Itmar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi Mishum Rabbeinu. Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi said the name of Rav. Amar halacha Rabbi Yehuda, Sha'amar Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he quotes Rav, and he says that Rav said the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Chia bar Abba, so now we're going to prove this. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says, Tzali v'hadar tzali. Rabbi Chia bar Abba once prayed, and he prayed a second time. So Amar le Rabbi Zera, so Rabbi Zera saw him, and he said, remember Rabbi Zera was the one that earlier asked Rabbi Yirmiyah about Rabbi Yanai praying twice. Right? So now here again, Rabbi Zera sees Rabbi Chia bar Abba pray twice, and Rabbi Zera comes over to him afterwards and says, hey, my tama avid marhachi. What's the reason that the master did this? Why'd you pray twice? If you say mishum delo kiven da'ate mar da'ate, if you say it's because the master, meaning if you say because you didn't have kavanah the first tefillah, v'ha'amar Rabbi Elazar lo yamod olam yamod adam et atzmo. Always a person should measure himself. If he can have kavanah in his heart, yitpalel, he should pray. V'im lav, and if he cannot have kavanah, al yitpalel. So I'm sure, it's not because you didn't have kavanah. So again, why did you pray twice? Ella dolo ad kamar d'reish yarcha. Maybe it's because the master didn't mention Rosh Chodesh, meaning Ya'alev Yavo. Right? If that's the reason why you prayed a second time, because you forgot Ya'alev Yavo in the first tefillah, V'hatanya, we learned in a Braita, Ta'avalo Yizkir Shorosh Chodesh, if you did not say Ya'alev Yavo, Ba'aravit, during Arvit, Ein Machzirinoto, you don't make him go back and say it again. Mipnei Shiachol Amar B'Shacharit, because you could go back and say it in Shacharit and make it up. B'Shacharit, if you did not say it while you're praying Shacharit, Ein Machzirinoto, no big deal. Mipnei Shiachol Amar Musafin, you can make up Ya'alev Yavo, Musafin. Ba Musafin, Ein Machzirinoto. In Musaf, we don't make him go back if you forgot to say Ya'alev Yavo. Shiachol Omara B'Mincha. So Amar Le. So basically he says, I don't quite understand why you prayed twice. If because it's Rosh Chodesh today and you forgot to say Ya'alev Yavo, there's no reason. And if it's because you didn't have kavanah, I'm sure you had kavanah because you're a great person, and I'm sure you had kavanah. So why did you pray twice? Amar Le. So Rabbi Chia bar Abba answered was Rabbi Zera, Lav itmar Allah, wasn't it said upon this teaching that you just said? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, bat tzibor shanu. It was taught with a tzibor, meaning that we don't make you go back and repeat the Shmona Esrei. If you forgot to say Ya'alev Yavo, that's if there's a Shaliach Tzibur. And the Shaliach Tzibur could say it for you. But if there's no Shaliach Tzibur, then you have to go back and you have to repeat the Amidah. So apparently, he repeated the Amidah because he made a mistake. He was praying by himself, and he made a mistake. All right? He said, he did not say Ya'alev Yavo. So now the Gemara says, Kami Yishet. Okay, so now we see this concept of praying once and then praying a second time. So the Gemara says, so now we're talking about praying once, praying a second time. Kama Yishet ben tefillah la tefillah. How much time should you wait between starting one tefillah, right? Between finishing the first and starting the second. Rav Huna v'Rabbi Chista, right? Rav Huna v'Rav Chista. Chad Amar Kedei she'titchonen da'ato alav. You know how much time you have to wait? As much time as it takes, so you should mitchanen. You're right. Your da'at. You should be able to get yourself in a frame of mind that you can pray properly. V'chad Amar, one says Kedei she'titcholel da'ato alav. So you should be able she'litcholel da'ato, which is again get yourself in a frame of mind that you should really mean your tefillot. They should be a longing desire to get close to Hashem. And as Rashi points out, those are really the same thing. They're just two different ways of expressing the same idea. Now, and each one has a reason why they express it, either shetitcholel or shetitchonen. Man the amar kedei shetitchonen da'ato alav. The one that says shetitchonen da'ato alav. Dichtiv, because it's written in the pasuk in Dvarim, V'etchanan el Hashem. Man the amar kedei shetitcholel da'ato alav. And the one that says shetitcholel, dichtiv, because the pasuk says vayachal Moshe, right? And it talks about how Moshe prayed to Hashem. So, Amar Rav Anan, Amar Rav. Rav Anan says the name of Rav. So before we we get to that last piece of Gemara, we'll take a look at this chart in front of you. And we see here, right, the top represents the daytime and the bottom represents the night. So in a Jewish month, right, we go according to the lunar calendar, which means the moon. And there are really 29 and a half days, right? It takes 29 and a half days for the moon to revolve around the earth. However, because we can't celebrate, we cannot have a half a day in our calendar, because our calendar also has to work with the solar calendar, because we base our holidays, Chodesh Aviv, Pesach, based upon the spring, and spring is based upon seasons, which is based upon the sun. So we can't have half a days. That's not going to work. So we either have 29 days in a month or 30 days in a month. When we have 29 days in a month, that's called chaser. That's called the Chodesh Chaser. Right? And if we have 30 days, that is a Chodesh Maleh. It's a full month. Okay? So, now looking back at this illustration on top, the little chart. So I have over here Adar on the left and Nisan on the right. So now, the 28th, right? Let's say the 28th is a Tuesday. Right? That's Tuesday morning. That night will be Tuesday night. Now, Tuesday night, okay, so we have Tuesday night, and then the 29th, the next morning, will be Wednesday morning. Then we have Wednesday night. Now, Wednesday night, there are two possibilities. Wednesday night could either be the first day of Nisan, or it could be the 30th day of Adar. We're not sure. We're not going to be sure until Thursday morning, right, which is either the 30th of Adar or the 1st of Nisan. We're not sure because the Eidim cannot testify, the witnesses can't testify about the new moon until the morning. And they can't see the new moon until Wednesday night. So if witnesses come and they're good witnesses, then it's the month is, right, Wednesday night turns out to be Rosh Chodesh, and Thursday morning turns out to be Rosh Chodesh, and the previous month was a 29-day month, and that's a Chodesh Chaser. However, if for some reason the witnesses don't show up because they just didn't see it or whatever it is, then really it turns out that the previous month had 30 days. Adar was 30 days, and then it turns out that Thursday night is Rosh Chodesh. Now that we understand that, we could look back in the Gemara. The Gemara says, Amarav Anan Amarav Ta'av lo izkir Rosh Chodesh Aravit ein machzirin oto. So Rav Anan said the name of Rav, you made a mistake and didn't say Ya'alev Yavo and Aravit. You don't make him go back and repeat Aravit. Because Beit Din's not open anyways until the day. So we don't even know that first night, right? Looking back at this chart, we don't know this Wednesday night over here, right? Wednesday night over here, we don't even know if this is Rosh Chodesh. So we can't make you go back and say the Amidah if you don't even know. Amar Ameimar says, Mistabra milta derav, Rav's words make sense, B'chodesh maleh, when it's a full month. Ava b'chodesh chaser, machzirin oto. Rav's words make sense if the month is full, right? As you see here, so if Wednesday night is really the 30th, as you see in the chart in front of you, then we can't make you go back because it's really we weren't even sure if that's Rosh Chodesh. It's really not Rosh Chodesh. But if Wednesday night is Rosh Chodesh, right, then we should make you go back. The obvious question is going to be, though, how in the world can we know when it's Wednesday night if tomorrow morning it's going to turn into Rosh Chodesh? And that's essentially what the Gemara is going to be saying. The answer is Michti. So Amar le Rav Ashi la Meimar, Rav Ashi Meimar Michti. Let us see. Rav Ta'ama Ka'amar. What's Rav's reason? Right? Rav's whole reason was that you're not Mekadashin at the Chodesh Balayla. Right? Not because because you're not Mekadosh the Chodesh Balayla. So Mali Chaser, Mali Malay. What difference does it make if it's Chaser or Malay? We don't know what Wednesday night is. We don't know if it's Rosh Chodesh or not. Since we don't know, Ela lo shna, rather there's no difference, and we do not repeat the Amidah.